So one of the first people to give me a song for the Big Time Music magazine was a man named Zeke Hoskin, and he was from Newfoundland, way over there, but I met him in British Columbia. He had been a computer programmer. He had cancer. The doctors cut off his leg where the cancer was, and then he thought, I don't really like being a computer programmer, so he became a musician. And he wrote this song before Canada said, marijuana is okay. And another word you need to know is poke, short for pokey, means going to prison. Okay, so can we start with the first song? Coffee gives you nerves of glass, but beer is good for you. Rye whiskey gets you drunk too fast, but beer is good for you. And if you take a little smoke, might be tobacco, might be dope. If you don't get cancer, you'll land in the Pope, but beer is good for you. Beer, beer, bring another round down here. We've got to have another glass or two. Don't tell me that it's getting late, it's early in the year. Sit down and have another glass of beer, it's good for you. Samson knew it very well, that beer is good for you. He grabbed those pillars, down they fell, 'cause beer is good for you. He cut his hair, they had no fear, they thought he'd lose his strength all year. But he shampooed every day with beer, 'cause beer is good for you. Beer, beer, bring another round down here. We've got to have another glass or two. Hey, don't tell me that it's getting late, it's early in the year. Sit down high and have another glass of beer, it's good for you. The Canadians won the Stanley Cup, 'cause beer is good for you. They took champagne to fill it up, 'cause beer is good for you. It sprung a leak and out it drained. It looked like a broken water main. They said, thank God it's just champagne, 'cause beer is good for you. Beer, beer, bring another round down here. We've got to have another glass or two. Don't tell me that it's getting late, it's early in the year. Sit down and have another glass of beer, it's good for you. The moral of this happy song is beer is good for you. Do you want to grow up tall and strong? Well, beer is good for you. Do you want to paint the town bright red? Walk on water, raise the dead. Then make your toast with wicked bread, 'cause beer is good for you. Beer, beer, bring another round down here. We've got to have another glass or two. Don't tell me that it's getting late, it's early in the year. Don't tell me that I've had enough and ain't running out my ears. Don't tell me anything at all. Sit down and drink your beer. Sit down and have another glass of beer, it's good for you. Okay, I showed you where Vancouver Island was, and I showed you where Trail was. This is about an English trade union leader, and he was small and sick, and he had problems with his teeth, and coughed a lot. Went to work in the coal mines as a child. It's not good for a healthy child. And when World War I came, the government said, oh, you're a hopeless physical wreck. We don't want you. But when he led the miners saying, we want to work 8 hours a day, not 10 or 12, he stopped the supply of coal. Now, this was like stopping oil today. If anybody was able to stop the supply of oil in the world, I think they would have an accident, or get sick, or just disappear. But the people who run the world don't say, oh dear, they do things to you. So this is the story. Oh, the first time I sang this, it was on national Canadian television. It was at a political meeting. The leader of our party came all the way out to Vancouver Island to see us. I'd just written the song, and I wrote the words on the back with Scotch tape, thinking, in case I forget them, I'll just look. And I thought, have you ever tried to play a guitar and look at the back? Anyway, you make all your stupid mistakes when you're young, and then you make different mistakes when you're old. Ginger Goodwin is a name you won't often hear or see. They don't say a word about him in our country's history. He was a labor leader and he wouldn't go to war. While the army breaks our strikes at home, it's strikers I'll fight for. In trail back in the summer of 1917, Ginger fought against conscription even though he was Class D. But when he led a miners' strike to spread the 8-hour day, conscription checked him out again and said he was Class A. Ginger hid from cops and soldiers in the hills of Cumberland. Miners brought him food and sheltered him. They knew he was their friend. So the bosses hired special cops when their power was at stake. Dan Campbell murdered Goodwin at the head of Comox Lake. The whole damn town of Cumberland turned out for the funeral hike. Vancouver's workers shut her down for a one-day general strike. Soldiers back from foreign wars then attacked the labor halls. Both the bosses and the workers knew who caused the Tsar's downfall. You can still see Ginger's grave along the road to Cumberland. He didn't win no medals and now no one understands. Don't tell me that a hero has to die in foreign lands. We lost heroes here in labor's wars, and they all had dirty hands. Many of us suffer from homesickness, honvade, when you want to go home. Honvaj, yeah, honvade, something else. Or Sehnsucht. And even if you stay in the same place you were born, then you suffer longing for the good old days when teachers were respected and children did their homework and listened to their parents and the buses were always on time. Of course, it's just a nice fantasy. And I feel the same way about Vancouver Island. I was there for 19 years, and it rained this much from the floor to here every year. One month it rained 29 days, and I had a very difficult finding a job. And I've never been able to keep my opinions to myself, so they decided, he's another Leon Trotsky. We're not going to hire him. When they needed a teacher about Canadian politics and stuff after I'd lived there and become a citizen, they found somebody from California. Anybody but Richard, right? So I also owned a music store, lost all my money. I ran for political office, lost every election. So actually, Vancouver Island wasn't heaven, but I'm very sentimental about it. So I wrote this song 20 years after I left. Mountains high, valleys low, green forests forever will grow. Mountains high, valleys low, Vancouver Island, back home I must go. That old rain got me down. If I did not get out, I would drown. Flew far away, I can't stay. I will never feel at home in a town. Chased my dreams, worked my schemes, made lots of money and threw it away. Skies are clear, I can't stay here. My island's calling me back home to stay.
That's my imaginary island. Okay, now you've seen the map. Try to remember, we're now going to the right side of the map. We're going to Nova Scotia. Stan Rogers was actually born in Ontario, but his mother and father were from Nova Scotia. All their relatives lived there. And just as Hungarians love coming back to Hungary, especially when they're making money in Switzerland or some other place, but home is home. So the East Coast people keep going home because they just love it. Their friends are there. It's a wonderful place. Houses are cheap. There's no jobs. So they always go to Ontario or Alberta or any place where the jobs are. So there was a time where the waters in the coast around Nova Scotia were polluted. And the Canadian government said, do not eat the fish that come out of these waters. But the Japanese didn't know, or either nobody told them or they didn't care. So then the fishermen were able to still go fishing, but it all went to Japan.
Where Patterson Creek's muddy waters run down past the Penny Arcade to the harbor downtown, all the old turtlebacks rust in the rain like they never will leave there again. But leave there they will in the hour before dawn, slip out in the darkness without word or song. For a few more years yet they will work while they can to catch tiny fish for Japan. No whitefish or trout here, we leave them alone. The inspectors raise hell if we take any home. What kind of fisherman can't eat his catch or call what he's taken his own?
I worked on that. But the plant works 3 shifts now, there's plenty of pay. We ship 17 tons of this garbage each day. If we want to eat fish, then we'll open a can and we'll catch tiny fish for Japan. In the Norfolk Hotel over far too much beer, the old guys remember when the waters ran clear. No poisons with names that we can't understand, and no tiny fish for Japan. So the days run together, each one is the same, and it's good that the smelt had no lovelier name. It's all just a job now, we'll work while we can, and we'll catch tiny fish for Japan. I have to go back to British Columbia. So I showed you Vancouver Island, and I worked on the ferry boat. I actually went around the world in short hops. It was 25 kilometers, and I did it twice a day for 3 years. And so that adds up to going around the world. Now, on the ferry boat, after the cars come on and you've begged them to please park a little closer, even though most drivers have no idea where their cars are, they don't know. Nobody's dead, that's good enough. So then we had nothing to do until we got to the other side. But of course, ships need to be clean. There's a slang word for toilet called head. English-speaking people have a real problem with toilet. No, we have no toilets. Restroom, washroom, ladies' room, anything but toilet. So anyway, to clean the head means to clean the toilet. And so if the officers found us, they'd say, paint that. I said, sir, it has 29 layers of paint on it. I know, paint it again. It's raining. Never mind, get working. It doesn't look good. Government employees standing around doing nothing. Alami munka. Okay. So it was a game to try and hide. Now, the senior captain was a friend of mine. He hired me for a week or two. 2 men had a quarrel. They were boxing, so they needed somebody new to take over for a few days. And then I came for another week and another month and another week, and went on for 3 years. And finally I thought, I have 6 years of university. I'd like to do more than this. So I finally left. But he used to feel embarrassed when I sang this song because he knows it's true. Here comes the mate, we've got to hide. We didn't come to work, we came for the ride. Wake me up when we get to the other side and hit the dock in Comars. The man at the wheel has mighty mean eyes all the way to Westview.
It's Long John Silver in disguise, all the way to Westview. Here comes the mate, we've got to hide. We didn't come to work, we came for the ride. Wake me up when we get to the other side and hit the dock in Comox. We mopped the stairs and we scrubbed the head all the way to Comox. Hammered at paint till my arm felt dead all the way to Comox. Here comes the mate, we've got to hide. We didn't come to work, we came for the ride. Wake me up when we get to the other side and hit the dock in Westview. One of my many jobs was to help my friend John, who came from Austria to Canada, opened a butcher shop, married a local girl who had relatives on Vancouver Island. I don't know the whole story, but he sold the butcher shop and went to Vancouver Island and rented land from the government. And he built his own boat. He took part of a Chevrolet car and part of a school bus and I don't know, other stuff in it, where we had a boat. We're pounding over the ocean, we're bounding over the main, and all I'll smell is diesel exhaust till we come home again. My pals ashore will ask me, tell us how does it feel to sail across the briny waste, clutching a steering wheel. The wheel came off a Chevy, the diesel came out of a bus, and if we sank, would anyone ask whatever became of us? There's a boom that hangs behind me, it's painted cheery red. Every time I straighten up, it whacks me on the head. We don't sail in the rain for pleasure, we're not cruising around for fun. We filled nets full of oysters here at low tide, now we're bringing them back by the ton. We've got a winch to lift them, we call it Tricky Dick. When the net's about to jam in the block, that's when the button will stick. Sometimes it's even stranger, it starts without a touch. It dropped a load of oysters on John, so he don't like it much. Still I'd rather be out sailing, though it's mostly cold and wet. Looked for better ways to spend my time, but I haven't found any yet. Going back to the East Coast, you'd think there's nothing in Canada between, except British Columbia and Halifax. No, there's a lot in between. If you are on a ship and it sinks and you leave it, then anybody who can bring it back up can have it. It's just there waiting for you, like the Titanic. If you want, just there it is, down a few kilometers. So generally they say, thank you for the insurance money, we'll get a new ship. But this doesn't always happen. Well, Stan Rogers, who wrote this song, I think I mentioned to you, the guy, he wrote the one about tiny fish. He had ties to the ocean and to Nova Scotia and so forth, and he spent a lot of time there, so he knew something about it. He died at age 37. He was on an airplane flight. Somebody was smoking a cigarette secretly and set fire to the inside of the airplane. Many people lived. He didn't. She went down last October in a pouring driving rain. The skipper, he'd been drinking, and the mate, he felt no pain. Too close to 3 Mile Rock, and she was dealt her mortal blow, and the Mary Ellen Carter settled low. There were 5 of us aboard her when she finally was awash. We worked like hell to save her, all heedless of the cost. And the groan she gave as she went down, it caused us to proclaim that the Mary Ellen Carter would rise again. The owners wrote her off, not a nickel would they spend. She gave 20 years of service, boys, and met her sorry end. But insurance paid the loss to them, and they let her rest below. They laughed at us and said we had to go. We talked of her all winter, some days around the clock. She's worth $250,000 afloatin' at the dock. With every jar that hit the bar, we swore we would remain and make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Rise again, rise again. That her name not be lost to the knowledge of men. Those who loved her best and were with her till the end will make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. All spring now we've been with her on a barge lent by a friend. 3 dives a day in a hard hat suit, twice I've had the bends. Thank God it's only 60 feet and the currents here are slow, or I'd never have the strength to go below. We patched her rents and stopped her vents, dog, cat, and porthole down. Put cables to her fore and aft and girded her around. Tomorrow noon we hit the air and then take up the strain and make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. For we couldn't leave her there, you see, to crumble into scale. She'd saved our lives so many times, driving through the gale. And the laughing drunken rats who left her to a sorry grave, they won't be laughing in another day. And you to whom adversity has dealt the final blow, with smiling bastards lying to you everywhere you go, turn to and put out all your strength of arm and heart and brain, and like the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Rise again, rise again. Though your heart it be broken and life about to end, no matter what you've lost, be it a home, a love, a friend, like the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Rise again, rise again. Though your heart it be broken and life about to end, no matter what you've cost, be it a home, a love, a friend, like the Mary Ellen Carter rise again.
Thank you. I worked with guys from Newfoundland on this fishing boat, and they just say things like, oofer, oofer, oofer. What? That meant move forward. So I'm not kidding when I say they have a dialect. And anyway, they seemed okay with the $75 for 2 weeks. And one of them said, I'm going to buy a really big car. I think the biggest car is a Dodge. I said, well, why is that? So they lived in places called outports. Now, an outport means a place you can only get to by boat, or maybe by an airplane that floats on water. But there are no roads. And Newfoundland has the population of Miskolcs. So, and why build roads? These were fishing villages. When people first went there in the 1500s, it was from Europe, get the fish, dry them, salt them, take them home. They didn't want to go anywhere in Newfoundland. So after many years, people in the outports said, we want a high school, we want a hospital, we want a dentist. And the government said, are you crazy? There are only 6 children in the village. So all villages in the world have this problem. So the government said, you will move. We will build you a place like Yerevan. You can live there. Forget this outport stuff. And they have funny names. One of them is called Morton's Harbor. And another one is called Twillingate. Another one is called Fogo. Sounds like a Hungarian verb. But they kept their traditions from Ireland and Scotland, and they still sing. So they also, instead of saying boy, they say bye. I's the boy that builds the boat. I's the boy that sails her. I's the boy that catches the fish and brings them home the lizer. Hip your partner Sally to bow. Hip your partner Sally Brown. Fogo, Twillingate, Martin's Harbor, all around the circle. Sods and rind to cover your flame. Cake and tea for supper. Codfish in the spring of the year. Bride and Maggoty butter. Hip your partner Sally to bow. Hip your partner Sally Brown. Fogo, Twillingate, Martin's Harbor, all around the circle. I don't want your maggoty fish, that's no good for winter. I could buy as good as that down in Bonavista. Vista. Hip your partner Sally to bow, hip your partner Sally Brown. Fogo, Twillingate, Morton's Harbor, all around the circle. I took Liza to a dance, fate but she could travel. Every step that she did take was up to her knees in gravel. Hip your partner Sally to Bow, hip your partner Sally Brown, Fogo, Twillingate, Martin's Harbour, all around the circle. Susan White, she's out of sight, her petticoat wants a border. Old Sam Oliver in the dark, her in the corner. Hip your partner Sally to Bow, hip your partner Sally Brown, hip your partner to circle. The next one's Farewell to Nova Scotia. There are many songs like this, and they're all about young men being called to go to war. Now, probably some of you have lost relatives in the many wars Hungary and other countries had. And my private opinion is that they were not heroes, they were victims. And people who made a lot of money out of war, they make a lot of money out of war. Somebody is. Sent these poor people off to kill each other. So that, in each country there's a song about, I don't want to go and kill strangers, but they have the same song, or they're going to come and kill me. So this is about a young man leaving Nova Scotia.
The sun was setting in the west, and the birds were singing on every tree. All nature seemed inclined to rest, but still there was no rest for me. Farewell to Nova Scotia, the sea-bound coast. Let your mountains dark and dreary be, for when I'm far away.
This is another wonderful Stan Rogers song. Very few people sing about farmers, but farmers are more or less disappearing, as you know. So huge areas of land, big expensive machines, large corporations, and they hire people. But it's not your farm anymore. So 110 years ago, half of the people in North America were farmers. In Hungary, I imagine it was higher. And now it's 2 or 3% or less. And of course, they only get paid once a year when they sell the crop. And the rest of the time they go to the bank and say, can we please have some more money? And sadly, many of them have to have a job in doing something else. But they love farming, so they do it for us. Watch the field behind the plow, turn to straight dark rows, feel the tickle in your clothes, blow the dust cake from your nose, hear the tractor's steady roar. Oh, you can't stop now, there's a quarter section more or less to go. And it figures that the rain keeps its own sweet time. You can watch it come for miles, so you guess you've got a while. Ease the throttle out a hair, every rod's a gain, and there's victory in every quarter mile. Poor old Kuzik down the road, the heartache, hail, and hoppers got him down. He gave it up and went to town. Emmett Pierce the other day took a heart attack and died at 42. You could see it coming on, 'cause he worked as hard as you. In an hour, maybe more, we'll be wet clear through. The air is cooler now. Pull your hat brim further down and watch the field behind the plow. Turn to straight dark rows, put another season's promise in the ground. And if the harvest's any good, the money just might cover all the loans. You've mortgaged all you own. Buy the kids a winter coat. Take the wife back east for Christmas if you can. All summer she hangs on when you're so tied to the land. For the good times come and go, but at least there's rain. So this won't be barren ground when September rolls around. To watch the field behind the plow, turn to straight dark rows, put another season's promise in the ground.
watch the field behind the plow turn to straight dark roads, put another season's promise in the ground. The motto of Saskatchewan is next year country, because even when it doesn't rain, or it rains at the wrong time, or the grasshoppers, that's what he meant by hoppers, the insects come and eat everything, hey, well, next year will be better. And they've done studies, and they found that the people who stay in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta are unrealistically, abnormally optimistic. Thank you, because otherwise we wouldn't get the food. Okay, this song is by Gordon Lightfoot. He was born in a small town of Orillia, north of Toronto, and he sang in a church, same as I did. And if it wasn't for the great I got from singing in church, I wouldn't have started singing in Irish pubs or be doing this now. I mean, people encouraged me a lot. And when the folk song craze came, he was right there, and he wrote lots of music, but it was sung by the Grateful Dead, Ian and Sylvia, Peter, Paul and Mary, and other. All Americans were singing, making money from his songs, but he was Canadian? So he couldn't get anywhere. And this was true of most people. If you can imagine living in Slovenia, and there's not a big demand for Slovenian music, even if it sounds like your music, right? So everybody in Slovenia would go somewhere else, Vienna, Budapest, someplace where there's action. And so most Canadian singers and actors went to Hollywood or New York or someplace. And so this is a song about his homesickness of wishing he was back in Canada. Now, there are lots of songs about railroads, but certainly in North America, railroads are not so alive. They're great here, but not there. So this is one of the few songs about an airplane. In the early morning rain, with $1 in my hand, and an aching in my heart, and my pockets full of sand. I'm a long way from home, and I miss my loved ones so. In the early morning rain, with no place to go, out on runway number 9, big 707 set to go. But I'm stuck here on the ground, where the cold wind blows. Well, the liquor tasted good, and the women all were fast. Well, there she goes, my friends, she's rolling now at last. Hear the mighty engines roar, see the silver bird on high. She's away and westward bound, far above the clouds she'll fly, where the morning rain don't fall and the sun always shines. She'll be flying o'er my home in about 3 hours' time. Well, this old airport's got me down, it ain't no earthly good to me, 'cause I'm stuck here on the ground, cold and drunk as I can be. Can't jump a jet plane like you can a freight train. So I'd best be on my way in the early morning rain. That's it for this one. So when I started my career in radio in Canada, I wanted to do news, I wanted to go to television news, I wanted everybody to know me and love me, and then I wanted to be Prime Minister. Because people who are known on television get votes, because I know him, he's telling the truth, the news is always true, sort of. And they just put in a new law saying, for people like Gordon Lightfoot and Anne Murray and other unknown singers, we're going to require that 40% of the music on radio has to be Canadian. Well, I was just starting. We didn't have any Canadian records. We did American. So suddenly, Gordon Lightfoot and Anne Murray became very famous because we played them again and again and again and again. Then they raised it to 60%, and now it's down to 35%. But it wouldn't happen otherwise. You know, there would be no music in Canada if it wasn't for that rule. So this is by Leonard Cohen. He's from Montreal. He was a poet,
and a novelist. But in Hungary, people do read poetry. And in most homes, there are books of poems. And you love naming streets and squares after famous poets. But in Canada and the United States, no one's going to read it. There was a Russian emigre who came to America and said, "I can write anything I want now." And nobody cares. So he wasn't sent to a gulag, it's poetry. So Leonard Cohen decided, if I sing my poems, then people will hear them. If you're familiar with his recordings, you might realize he didn't have an operatic voice, unlike me. But the lyrics say something, probably more than a lot of songs. I loved you in the morning, our kisses sweet and warm. Your hair upon the pillow like a sleepy golden storm. Many loved before us, I know we are not new. In city and in forest, they smiled like me and you. But now it's come to distances and both of us must try. Your eyes are soft with sorrow, hey, that's no way to say goodbye. I'm not looking for another as I wander in my time. Walk me to the corner, our steps will always rhyme. You know my love goes with you as your love goes with me. It's just the way it changes, like the shoreline of the sea. But let's not talk of love or chains and things we can't untie. Your eyes are soft with sorrow, hey, that's no way to say goodbye. I loved you in the morning, our kisses sweet and warm. Your hair upon a pillow like a sleepy golden storm. Yes, many loved before us, I know we are not new. In city and in forest, they smiled like me and you. But now it's come to distances and both of us must try. Your eyes are soft with sorrow, hey, that's no way to say goodbye, goodbye. So he was Jewish, and a Buddhist friend of mine told me he went to study Buddhism, but Montreal and Quebec are Catholic, Roman Catholic. And so this song has lots of allusions to the Roman Catholic Church because that's what they are there. Oh, the sisters of mercy, they are not departed or gone. They were waiting for me when I thought that I just can't go on. They brought me their comfort and later they brought me their song. Oh, I hope you run into them, you who've been traveling so long. Yes, you who must leave everything that you cannot control. It begins with your family, and soon it comes round to your soul. Well, I've been where you're hanging, and I think I can see how you're pinned. When you're not feeling holy, your loneliness tells you you've sinned. Well, they lay down beside me, I made my confession to them. They touched both my eyes, and I touched the dew on their hem. If your life is a leaf that the seasons tear off and condemn, they will bind you with love that is graceful and green as a stem. When I left, they were sleeping. I hope you run into them soon. Don't turn on the lights, you can read their address by the moon.
and it won't make me jealous if I hear that they sweetened your night. We weren't lovers like that, and besides it would still be alright. We weren't lovers like that, and besides it would still be alright. The last song I've got from Leonard Cohen, I don't know how many of you have had this experience, but a few of us have had too much to drink in the evening, and the next day you think, what did I say? What did I do? And when I was much younger, living in Toronto, alone, sad, lonely, I had this experience. So I really related to this song. And I also went to a choir rehearsal after realizing I'd lost my job and had no money and had a few drinks before the choir rehearsal. I could hardly sing, and everybody said, poor Richard, he's lost his job, has no money. Like a bird on a choir, like a drunk in a midnight choir, I have tried in my way to be free. Like a worm on a hook, like a knight in an old-fashioned book. That's a really long line, isn't it? I have saved all my ribbons for thee. And if I have been unkind, I hope you'll just let it go by. If I have been untrue, I hope you know it was never to you. For like a baby still born, like a beast with his horn, I have torn everyone who reached out to me. But I swear by this song and by all I have done wrong, I will make it all up to thee. I saw a beggar leaning on his wooden crutch. He said to me, you must not ask for so much. And a pretty woman leaning in her darkened door, she cried to me, hey, why not ask for more? Like a bird on a wire, like a drunk in a midnight choir, I have tried in my way to be free. Like a worm on a hook, like a knight in an old-fashioned book, I have saved all my ribbons for thee. Now, you probably know that America had a revolution to get rid of England and have their own money system and make more money and all the rest of it. And people often ask the Canadians, don't you want to be free? Don't you want to get rid of the horrible English people? And the Americans tried to help them in 1812. They crossed the border with an army, and the Canadians said, no, actually, we don't want to be free. England's just fine, go away, and they shot them. So again, in 1837, this is before the big revolutions in Europe in 1848, there was a revolution in Ontario, and much less in Quebec. The Quebecers had as many as 10 children. If you've had small children, they didn't have time for revolutions. Revolutions are from city people. And in Quebec, all the people lived on the St. Lawrence River on farms. So many couldn't read. And so if there was, it wasn't very successful. But a few people did what they could. The English killed some, and many had to cross the St. Lawrence and live in New York State and look sadly. Now, wait a minute. We did Burn on the Way. Okay, this one, Errant means wandering, and thank heavens I found the English translation so I don't have to do it for you. My wife loves this, and she doesn't know a word of French, but it's sung with great feeling. It was written by a university student 5 years after the failed revolution. He should have been studying for exams, but he stayed up and wrote this song, and I'm glad he did. Une Canadienne errant, bannie de ses foyers, une Canadienne errant, bannie de ses foyers, parcourait en pleurant des pays étrangers, parcourait en pleurant des toujours triste et pensif, assis au bord des flots, toujours triste et pensif, assis au bord des flots, au courant fugitif, il adressa ces mots. Au courant fugitif, il adressa ces mots. Si tu vois mon pays malheureux, si tu vois mon pays malheureux, va dire à mes amis que je me souviens d'eux. Va dire à mes amis que je me souviens d'eux. Au jour si plein de peine, vous êtes disparus. Au jour si plein de peine, vous êtes disparu, et ma patrie, hélas, je ne la verrai plus. Et ma patrie, hélas, je ne la verrai plus.
To expire means to breathe out with my last breath. But before I learned some French, I thought it meant to die.
Nos maisons expirant, oh mon cher Canada, nos maisons expirant, oh mon cher Canada, mon regard languissant vers toi s'éportera. Mon regard languissant vers toi s'éportera.
Well, I was debating about whether to sing the next song here or not because it's not historical. It has nothing to do with longing for home. Many people are looking for love, and sometimes they settle for a short-term romantic encounter with a near stranger. I sang this at the Seattle Folk Life Festival, and some religious fundamentalist young man ran up to me and said, "You're approving of people being immoral." And I'm saying, well, actually, I'm saying it's really not that good.
We met at the party, the liquor was flowing, our friends thought that we ought to meet. You played my favorite music, we read all the same books, I laid myself down at your feet. It was almost the real thing, just like the real thing, except I don't know your last name. We've lived the same places, seen the same faces. Your man was a sailor like me. We thumbed down the same roads and tripped out the same time. We wanted the world to be free. It was almost the real thing, just like the real thing, except you don't know my last name. We've both lost our children, teddy bears sit waiting. We both know they'll never come home. I showed you the pictures of my kids in snowsuits and wonder why they never phone. It was almost the real thing, just like the real thing, except I don't know your last name. We compare our old lovers and dried up ambition. Here's my story, I'll tell it once more. You fix me my breakfast, pour me my coffee, but in daylight I can't find your door. It was almost the real thing, just like the real thing, except You don't know my last name.
This is another Stan Rogers song. I really love him, you can tell. And it's about the life of his life. People who wander around and sing in different bars from time to time. It's very bad for family life. That's why you wonder why these people get divorced so often, if they ever have a family at all. And this is about a man who wants to be true. Where the earth shows its bones of wind-broken stones, and the sea and the sky are one. I'm caught out of time, my blood sings with wine, and I'm running naked in the sun. There's God in the trees, I'm weak in the knees, and the sky is a painful blue. I'd like to look around, but honey, all I see is you. The summer city lights will soften the nights till you think that the air is clear. I'm sitting with friends where 45 cents will buy another glass of beer. He's got something to say, but I'm so far away that I don't know who I'm talking to. 'Cause you just walked in the door, and honey, all I see is you. And I just want to hold you closer than I've ever held anyone before. You say you've been twice a wife and you are through with life. Ah, but honey, what the hell's it for? After 23 years, you think I could find a way to let you know somehow that I want to see your smiling face 45 years from now. So alone in the lights on stage every night, I've been reaching out to find a friend who knows all the words and sings so she's heard and knows how all the stories end. Maybe after the show she'll ask me to go home with her for a drink or two. Now her smile lights her eyes, but honey, all I see is you. And I just want to hold you closer than I've ever held anyone before. You say you've been twice a wife and you're through with life. Ah, but honey, what the hell's it for? After 23 years, you think I could find a way to let you know somehow that I want to see your smiling face 45 years from now. We're running out of songs, only 2 left. I wrote this one tongue-in-cheek. I don't really like country music. I'm a snob, European family. We had Mozart string quartets in the living room. But that's what people want to hear. In my short career on Vancouver Island, people said, "Don't you know Johnny Cash?" Okay, I do now. If you want it, I'll sing it. But I've used every cliche I can think of in country music and put it in here, sort of making fun of it. And yet it's on Django Internet Radio, and it's one of the people's favorite. They love it. So I don't know if they know the humor or not. I can't listen to the radio. Every song they sing's about me. About hard luck lovers cheated under the covers, sit alone nights watching TV. They trusted their women and they trusted their men. Now they'll never trust anyone else again. How can I listen to the radio when the songs they sing are so true? My heart knows it's broken, my head knows I'm blue. I don't need country singers telling me to. They tried a little sinning and it got out of hand. Then the wife ran off with the leader of the band. Their hearts are broken in a million parts. They're dying or living in hell. Every song they sing goes ding-a-ling-ling. They never miss, they keep ringing my bell. They're looking for a job, they're heading down the road. They drink an awful lot cause they've got a heavy load. No, I can't listen to the radio, I'd rather do my crying alone. If you find a song where love affairs don't go wrong, I'll sell this TV and turn you back on. How can I listen to the radio when the songs they sing are so true? My heart knows it's broken, my head knows I'm blue.
I don't need country singers telling me to.
You might say, wait a minute, he promised us folk songs. Well, I am a folk, I'm a Mitch. And 2 of my songs are now in a collection of British Columbia songs about working on the water. So that's me. Now, the last one's by Gordon Lightfoot again. He wrote this in 1967 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Canada's independence. And nowadays we don't sing songs about new railroads, new power dams, new developments. We think, the world's falling apart. We need less of that. I've already mentioned building this railroad started 12 years after America built a railroad across their country. If you wanted to go to the west coast of Canada, you had to go through America. If you wanted to sell your wheat from Canada, you had to sell it in America. There was no railroad across. But people didn't want to spend money to build a railroad. They said, the Indians don't want it. Nobody else is there. Why put money in it? And the government said, we'll give you the land. You can sell the land. So the Canadian Pacific Railroad made a ton of money because Edmonton, Calgary, all these cities are on railroad land. And now they have skyscrapers, and the railroad's still making money from land. But there was a tremendous death toll. The construction started in 1881. They kept running out of money, and the Easterners said, we don't want to pay for this. We're never going to go there. We don't know anybody there. And the businessmen said, someday we will be rich. So they kept getting more money from the government or from New York or anywhere they could. And they treated their workers terribly. This is 1881 and so forth. So many were killed. Some froze to death. They had awful hardships about it. And on the West Coast, there are mountains for the last 600 kilometers, and they had to dynamite the cliff to make a road where there was no road. And of course, sometimes they blew themselves up, sometimes they fell off the cliff.
There was a time in this fair land when the railroad did not run, when the wild, majestic mountains stood alone against the sun, long before the white man and long before the wheel, when the green, dark forests were too silent to be real. But time has no beginning and history has no bounds. As to this verdant country they came from all around. They sailed upon her waterways and they walked the forests tall, built the mines, mills, and factories for the good of us all. When the young man's fancy was turning in the spring, the railroad men grew restless for to hear their hammers ring. Their minds were overflowing with the visions of their day, and many a fortune won and lost, and many a debt to pay. For they looked to the future, and what did they see? They saw an iron road running from the sea to the sea, bringing the goods to a young growing land, all up from the seaports and into their hands. Look away, said they, across this mighty land, from the eastern shore to the western strand. Bring in the workers and bring up the rails. We've gotta lay down the track and tear up the trail. Open her heart, let the lifeblood flow. Gotta get on our way, 'cause we're moving too slow. Get on our way, 'cause we're moving too slow. Behind the blue Rockies, the sun is declining. The stars, they come stealing at the close of the day. Across the wide prairies, our loved ones lie sleeping. Behind the dark ocean, in a place far away. Now, a navvy has nothing to do with the Navy. It means a worker with a shovel and a hammer who builds the railroad. We are the navvies who work upon the railway, swinging our hammers in the bright blazing sun, living on stew and drinking bad whiskey, bending our backs till the railroad is done. We are the navvies who work upon the railway, swinging our hammers in the bright blazing sun, laying down track and building the bridges, bending our backs till the railroad is done. Over the mountains and over the plains, into the muskeg, into the rain, up the St. Lawrence all the way to Gaspé, swinging our hammers and drawing our pay, driving them in and tying them down, away to the bunkhouse and into the town. $1 a day and a place for my head, a drink to the living, a toast to the dead. Oh, the song of the future has been sung, all the battles have been won. On the mountain tops we stand, all the world at our command. We have opened up the soil with our teardrops and our toil. There was a time in this fair land where the railroad did not run, where the wild, majestic mountains stood alone against the sun, long before the white man and long before the wheel, when the green, dark forest was too silent to be real, and many are the dead men too silent to be